What do you do when your body does something you did not ask it to? In the middle of a grocery store, in a meeting, in a moment you had no way of preparing for. Most of us have never had to answer that question. But for millions of people living with epilepsy, that is not a hypothetical. That is Tuesday. And for decades, the response to that kind of uncertainty has been to go quiet, to hide, to protect yourself from the judgment that comes when people don't understand. Today, we are talking exactly that. Welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Yusuf, and this is the space where we have the real conversations, the ones that don't always have tidy endings but always carry something true. Today, I'm joined by Jane Rogers, a woman who has lived with epilepsy for over 30 years, survived brain surgeries and countless seizures, and turned all of it into a memoir called Laughing Through the Storm. Jane, it is truly a pleasure to have you here today with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to have you guys reach out to me and for you to want to have me on your podcast. It's great. Thank you so much.
Yes. Jane, so let me start here, like on a very personal note.
Mhm.
The title of your memoir is Laughing Through the Storm. And I find it genuinely fascinating because most people, when they think about writing a memoir about illness, they think of it as something serious and heavy. So, what
Mm.
made you land on laughter as the thread?
Well, laughter has always been my coping mechanism, my strategy. So I knew that it made sense for it to be part of the title, and of course, threaded throughout the book, because that truly has always been how I am. It's either for me, it's either laughing or crying the whole time. So I'd rather laugh. So I, yeah, I and and laughing through the storm, like the storm being my brain, the storm that brews throughout every seizure I have. So that's the metaphor of that. But I found that it just fit perfectly to how I wanted the book to be like. Mhm.
Mm, mm. And
Yeah.
there's this belief that epilepsy, and I suspect most of us who are listening have never been into this situation.
Mm.
They never know what it is like to be. For example, if I see someone who has epilepsy, how should I treat them? How should I, give them care, attention that they deserve?
Well, like, you mean just like after they had the seizure?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, of course. Um, well, for like if you are aware of the person being an epileptic, um, the first thing I would say, like if you're seeing them having a seizure at that point, if you know they have epilepsy, then the first thing is to not just automatically call the ambulance. What you want to do is you want to start timing the seizure because if the seizure goes past 5 minutes, then it's critical. Then it's important that you call an ambulance. And I really would think 5 minutes is a little too long, but that's what they generally say. And when I have my seizures, I tell people to always, to say calming words like "it's going to be okay, it's almost over," that kind of stuff. And if there isn't anything soft underneath their head, you want to place something soft under their head because they're going to be now. If they're on their ground, they're going to be hitting their head against the ground. So you want to put something nice and soft there. And So yeah, you want to time it, do that, and then afterwards you kind of roll them over on their side to make sure that they're okay afterwards. Um, but a lot of people, especially if it's in a business, they want to automatically call an ambulance. But in a standard case where if you've been having it for many years, more likely than not, you're not gonna. It's just you're gonna get out of the seizure and you're gonna be fine. And you're wasting the ambulance the hospital's time because I've found when I've been brought to the hospital, they I basically am there for 2 hours waiting for a doctor to come with no medication to help, like, no Tylenol to help with a headache or whatever, and he just looks at me and says, "Go home." That's it. So I'm wasting a bed for somebody who needs, more attention than me. I just need to get home. So but in cases if you don't know if the person is an epileptic, of course, it's important to call the ambulance because you don't know their situation. But if you do know they're an epileptic, time the seizure, and then if it gets past a point where it's like they say 5 minutes, then of course call the ambulance because that usually standard seizures are between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. That's around the standard time for the average person. Yeah, so that's what I would say there. And but I understand a lot of people, like, when it's your first time, your reaction, like what you feel like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And you want to like call the ambulance right away. But in most cases, when a person has had it for many years, it's not necessary for an ambulance to be called unless they fall and hurt themselves too. If they fall and hurt themselves and they're bleeding, then yeah, okay, call the ambulance, but if nothing like that happened, then it's not necessary. Yeah.
Yes. And you were diagnosed at 13. And
Mhm,
what you have shared about that time is that when you told people you were bullied and you learned very quickly that it was much safer to stay silent. I want to sit with that for a moment
mhm.
because that kind of silence that a child learns to protect themselves is it does not just go away when we grow up, it shapes us.
Yes,
So, what do you think that early silence did to you over the years, and when did you start to realize it was costing you something?
yeah, so, staying silent like that for so many years, like, you're just in, isolation and like, yeah, once I got bullied, like, my first reaction to being diagnosed, I was like, "Oh, I'll share the news with my friends," I was clueless to what understanding what it was in the first place too. Um, but the reaction I got from it all, like it just like it something broke inside of me. And I was like, okay, I have to rethink how moving forward, because now I've just put a target on my back and I had to just stay quiet and be careful who I mentioned it to moving forward in the future. Um, and it, closed up in many ways. I built up brick walls for many years, and I also found that it wasn't just the kids, there was adults who, when they would hear that I was an epileptic, their reaction was, "Oh, that means she must not understand what I'm saying, so I have to talk to her like she's a child." And that would drive me insane. I'd be, like, ready to wanting to punch them in the face half the time, but of course it didn't. But, that's how I was just so angry. I'm like, "I understand what you're saying. Why are you talking to me like I'm a child?" So people just don't get it. They have no but later on, I realized I had to start speaking up, and especially when it worked itself into the workplace, I was like, okay, I cannot handle this anymore. And they were in management positions, but I was like, I'm gonna go and talk them in polite manner, not being like, rude to them, but just in a polite manner, say, listen, I don't know if you realize what you're doing, but when you talk to me, you're talking down to me like a child, and it's very disrespectful, and I do not deserve to be treated that way. And when I had done that, they looked at me and they were just so embarrassed, bloody embarrassed by their behavior. And from that day forward, they, changed their ways. And in the end, I gained their respect because I stood up for myself and I said something, which, which was a good thing and a learning thing for myself because I am a people pleaser and I don't want to stir the pot. But at some point, it's like, man, like I am gonna, this is not right how people are treating me. And in the end, more often than not, they just don't realize what they're doing. And when they do, when they're told, then they're like, oh my God, I feel like an idiot or whatever they would say. But it's you have to I learned over time that I had to be more vocal and start speaking up. Um, but I didn't really start getting the help through therapy until I was in my 30s, and then that's when I started to realize how many walls I built up and how I had to start breaking them down and start rebuilding my just being more getting more confident and being comfortable with talking about it because even you never I'm not gonna have not everybody's gonna like me or whatever or what I'm saying. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what? Who cares? You're not gonna have but whatever, everybody has their own opinions on how they want, with stuff, but, when I started to, learn to be more vocal and start getting my voice back, it's been great because I really feel that I'm becoming more myself now, compared to how I was when I was younger. I was so, I'm scared of saying anything for many years. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. There's something so important about what you just said because so many people listening right now, not just with epilepsy, but with anything they have learned to hide, are still carrying that same lesson they have learned as a child.
Mhm.
That it is safer to be invisible, but
Yeah.
you are a living proof that it does not have to stay that way.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the humor, the role humor for you. Not as a way of making other people comfortable, but as something real that actually helped you survive. Because I think there's a version of just laugh it off that is actually quite unhealthy, and then there's a different kind of humor,
Yeah.
a darker, more honest kind. So was what was you were doing to you internally?
Well, like, I mean, yeah, there's been so many times where it's not like I'm laughing right away, like after, this absurd situation happens. Like I get mad. I'm like, oh God. But then I look at some of the absurdity of that situation and I can't help but laugh at that. Like, uh, I'll give you for like certain situations with other seizures I've had, like um so there's one place that I've had a seizure that is the most awkward place, and that is the bathroom. And I'm not talking about while I'm brushing my teeth. I'm talking about while I'm on the toilet. So in the midst of being there, and when the seizure hits, I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me right now. You couldn't wait one more minute. Like, oh my God. So I'm so mad at that moment. But then afterwards, I'm like, you know what? I gotta laugh at this one day at the absurdity at the timing of the seizure. Like, honestly, and maybe one day I'll be talking about it on a podcast. You never know. So yeah, yeah, I don't necessarily I'm not laughing specifically at that exact time, but sometimes when there's timings of seizures, there's another story where when I was in testing, for brain surgery. I had a roommate. She was a lovely girl who was going through university and trying to figure out why she's having all these seizures. And one night she started having a seizure, and so I pressed the call button to get the nurse's attention, saying like she's having a seizure. They come in, and then all of a sudden, right when they start coming in to help her, I start having a seizure just like that. So and at that time, I could see, like, I wasn't blacked out. I hadn't blacked out, so I was aware of everything. I saw everything that was going on, and I was trying to will them to not help me and just help her, but because they were looking both back at me and the other girl thinking, "Who are we gonna help first?" And then they were calling the intercom like, "Help, get more help over here." So I'm thinking, "Okay, I don't wanna be laughing," but the timing is kinda like, I mean, the absurd timing of it all, I couldn't help but laugh inside, but also feel bad for the nurses because they were in complete panic mode about the chaos that me and my roommate did for that evening. But but, I mean, I couldn't help but laugh afterwards at the fact that I had to my brain had to stage a rebellion and start more chaos in the hospital that night. Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, I've learned to laugh in those situations.
Yeah. Jeet, for people who want to connect with you or want to learn more about your work, where can you do that?
Yeah, so my website is laughingthroughthestorm.com, and you'll be able to find out where to, purchase my book and as well my, social media tags there, and I'll be adding more blogs on in the future and stuff to that extent, but that's where they'll be able to find out from more information about me.
Perfect. And to everyone listening, all these links are in the show notes, so just go and check those out.
Yeah.
Jane, do you have any last message that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, well, you know, I never thought in a million years that I would have written a book in the first place. So here I am, I've written a book, and I truly hope that my book brings some, laughter to people that whoever are struggling, but also strength for those such, like, similar to me who, held things in for so many years, and to give them the strength to start talking and sharing their stories, 'cause it truly when you start talking about that sort of stuff, it can be really powerful and very, um, um, healing in a form for your own self. So I I hope that my book will kind of start, giving people more, courage to start speaking out and spreading more awareness and standing up for themselves as well. So yeah, that's it there. Yeah.
Jane, thank you so much for the honesty, for the laughter, and for being someone who decided that her story was worth telling out loud and without any apology.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And to everyone listening, if today's conversation touched something in you, please share this episode. You never know whose silence it might gently break. This has been Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Yusuf. Be kind to yourself this week, and we'll see you in the next one.